So what I have to share in this video, I believe is really important, and I think it's really timely. There's a lot of videos that have been showing up talking about like underground bunkers and things like that, and how it seems like the elite are preparing for something that's coming. Might be nuclear war, could be something else. And before those videos popped up in the last day or so, I'd actually been working on something where I talk about that same thing. So this is actually, Lord willing, going to be inserted in my new book as a chapter in that book. And I will hopefully be getting that edit made in the next few days. So the book that I'm referring to is Convergence. It's on Amazon. You can get it both in Kindle and in a paperback version. What I talk about in this book, I discuss the prophecy, the days of Noah, the coming earth cataclysms. I talk about how this convergence of the days of Noah also converges with the signs we see in Revelation chapter 12. So all of that is in this book. It's in videos that I've made in the past. But what I want to talk about today is the coming global catastrophe, this extinction level event that is rapidly approaching, that the people who are in the know, the elites, the powers that shouldn't be but are, they are aware of something, and they haven't really been telling us, at least not directly. But what I want to do today is I actually want to read to you this chapter that's going to be going into my book, Convergence, because I think it's really important that people understand that even though the Bible talks about these things, part of the convergence is that the people who aren't believers, people who aren't Christians, they know what's coming too. And so I did want to bring that aspect into what I'm talking about in my book. So I'm going to be reading from my paper here. And if reading bothers you, then I suggest you just don't watch it. Don't watch the video. Just listen, because what I'm saying is more important than what you're seeing on the screen. The title of this video is Earth Catastrophes and the End Times. And I just want you to understand that earth catastrophes are nothing new. And there have been life-altering cataclysmic events that have taken place in the past. And the flood of Noah is perhaps the single greatest catastrophe in human history. In the history of the world. And many ancient cultures actually drew a connection between catastrophes that take place on the earth and the goings-on in the stars, including the predictable appearances of asteroids and comets, some of which seem to radiate from specific constellations in the nighttime sky. And I've talked about this in other videos, the Taurid meteor shower that comes from the constellation Taurus, and in particular from the Pleiades, that little cluster that the Bible mentions 3 times as having an influence on the earth. Now, we know that it's God's practice to actually warn people about catastrophes before they take place, especially catastrophes which are which mark out a spiritual inflection point. These inflection points are actually manifested in the real world, and they're recorded, they're remembered in secular history, and it's a fact. The worldwide flood is a fact. It is something that happened. Its history is in the geological record, and the story is found in numerous traditions throughout the world. So when the flood came, life on earth was never the same afterwards. So Noah was warned by God of a future cataclysm, this coming worldwide flood. And God warned Noah so that Noah could take action and build an ark. So Genesis 6:17, for behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh in which there is the breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on the earth shall die. And then Hebrews 11:7 also talks about Noah. By faith, Noah, when warned about things not yet seen, in godly fear built an ark to save his family. By faith, he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness that comes by faith. So Noah was warned by God, and Noah responded in faith. His faith led to action, and his action made a way for him to become an heir of righteousness. So God is still in the practice of warning his people, and like Noah of old, people of faith still believe him. The prophetic scriptures warn us that an earth-shattering cataclysm is on its way. The cataclysm will involve the destruction of much of the earth and the death of the majority of the world's population. The cataclysm will give rise to wars, where the survivor nations compete for scarce resources. Worldwide chaos will ensue, along with economic collapse, famine, disease, and death. Revelation 6:8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed him. And they were given authority over a fourth of the earth, to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth. So every year, the earth passes through a number of predictable meteor showers, and when passing through one of these ancient comet debris fields, which a lot of them are, small rocks find their way to Earth, and normally they just burn up as they speed through the Earth's atmosphere. When viewed against the backdrop of a pitch-black night sky, they create the illusion of falling stars. And these small bits of flaming debris they're inconsequential. And as they enter the Earth's atmosphere, they create an enchanting display. If you've ever seen a meteor shower, they're pretty fun to watch. Like tiny fireworks, falling stars streak through the sky, and within seconds, they're gone. Occasionally, some of the larger rocks may actually impact the Earth. When that happens, the meteorite or asteroid can form a crater. When a significantly large enough meteorite hits the Earth, the impact will cause an explosion, which may be large or small, depending on the size of the rock and the angle of the impact. The impact craters can be found throughout the Earth, each of them bearing silent testimony of a sudden, unexpected event that originated from the sky. Evidence of meteor impacts are visible both on the land and in the oceans. Tree rings also leave a silent witness to the dark years which followed such impacts, years with no sun, the inevitable result of cometary and volcanic debris blanketing the earth, blocking the sun's rays. Many cultures, both ancient and modern, are aware of the correlation between the movement of the heavenly bodies and the potential for extinction-level events when the stars come too close to the earth. Some scientists postulate that the flood of Noah's day may have been the result of the earth passing through a large meteor storm. In this scenario, many large meteors may have impacted the earth, breaking open the fountains of the deep and initiating volcanic activity. The volcanic debris, along with dust from multiple meteor impact explosions, which were then ejected into the Earth's atmosphere, would give rise to condensation and precipitation on a grand scale. The deluge continued for 40 days, after which all life on the earth was annihilated, save for 8 souls and a boat full of animals. Destruction was complete. God promised that he would never again destroy the world with a flood of water. Nevertheless, the Bible warns about another kind of cataclysmic event which will take place, and I just want you to hear me here. It's going to take place during the last days. During the time of transition between our present age and the coming kingdom age when Christ will rule on earth, the world will again experience another global catastrophe originating from the stars. Okay? Unlike the events of Noah's day, the coming catastrophe will not result in a worldwide flood where every living, breathing creature is obliterated. When the stars fall to earth, as this age draws to a close, the result will be earthquakes, poisoned water, a broken atmosphere, burned vegetation, and volcanic and cosmic dust and debris filling the sky, obliterating a third of the light of the sun, moon, and stars. Okay, we read about this in Revelation chapter 8, and I'm just going to read verses 5 and 7 through 12. Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar and threw it on the earth. And there were peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there followed hail and fire mixed with blood, and these were thrown upon the earth. And a third of the earth was burned up, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and the springs of water. The name of the star is Wormwood. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many people died from the water because it had been made bitter. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light might be darkened, and a third of the day might be kept from shining, and likewise a third of the night. All right, so all of this was foretold centuries ago in the book of Revelation, but not many realize exactly what this prophecy is telling us. Many people have interpreted the book of Revelation as though it were some kind of allegory, as though the events that are described here are merely symbolic in nature. Those who hold to such views do not believe that the events described in Revelation were meant to be interpreted literally. So according to them, the apocalypse does not contain a literal description of future events. Rather, it's a symbolic depiction of historical events which took place like 2,000 years ago. However, the plain and simple reading of Revelation 8, the chapter which details the cosmic events associated with the first 4 trumpet blasts, resulting in a near extinction level event on earth, does not appear to be allegorical or symbolic. Without mincing words and using very clear language, God described for us the commencement of a future near extinction level event. In the book of Revelation, as well as in other prophetic scriptures, God took pains to warn us in advance of the catastrophic earth changes that will accompany a future spiritual inflection point, the transition between this present age and the return of Christ. Some people call this transition the tribulation, and I am just calling it the transition. So let's talk a little bit about secrets now. Okay, the observation and study of the positions of the sun, moon, and stars has been rigorously preserved and recorded by mankind for thousands of years. Why has so much effort and emphasis been placed on star gazing? This was done for the purpose of predicting future earth changes and catastrophes. Okay, I think that is the main purpose of all of this astronomical activity. If disaster comes from the heavens, then the only way to get ahead of the coming danger is through continuous observation. Then, when something dangerous is spotted up there, which seems to be headed our direction, there may be time to put into place some kind of way to avoid being annihilated in the next great catastrophe. And astronomers, both ancient and modern, know that the world's worst catastrophes almost always seem to originate from space. So modern-day space agencies like NASA, as well as the many astronomical observatories stationed all over the world, are the modern-day equivalent of the ancient astrologers. A lot of time and money has been invested in peering into the heavens, and no doubt billions of dollars have been expended. But why? What's the motivation? It's not simply the acquisition of more scientific knowledge. There must be a practical reason for doing this. Not too long ago, I came across a saying that struck me as having more than a kernel of truth. Here's the saying: "The poor trade in silver, the rich trade in gold, and kings trade in secrets." Kings trade in secrets. The kings of the world, that is, the earthly rulers of this age, have secrets that they are not openly sharing with the rest of us, but that they do trade with one another. And I suspect that the elite and the kings of the world have secret knowledge about a possible extinction-level event. They seem to be aware of a coming catastrophe, one for which they are feverishly preparing so that they can survive it. What do they know that we useless eaters don't know? Though much of the conversation about climate chaos is centered around human-generated climate change, that seems to be a weak card to play, as far as I'm concerned. The elite are anticipating something much greater, something that will actually cause climate change, but not the kind generated by people. It's a catastrophe that will originate from space and wreak havoc on the earth, not over decades, but over the course of a few short days. As a result of their secret knowledge, they are actively making preparations to temporarily live underground. With the aid of huge nuclear-powered underground boring machines, the elites have enlisted their agents, who are required to sign non-disclosure agreements, to carve out enormous spaces underground, whole cities, including warehouses and factories, living spaces and hospitals, and even roads and railways. Anecdotally, there may be hundreds of underground cities located all over the world. Many of these cities are connected to one another by some form of underground transportation. Food, medicine, supplies, machinery, even seeds are being stored in warehouses deep underground. All these cities and tunnels have been constructed in relative secrecy right under our noses for decades. The kings know something. They have a secret that they don't want to share with the rest of humanity. At least they don't want to share it in a forthright way, which would allow people to take action. Instead, their secrets are shared with the public via entertainment. Hollywood has produced a plethora of disaster movies, videos, and made-for-TV shows, each depicting how the world might end. Asteroids, nuclear war, tsunamis, volcanoes, pandemics, and even zombies grace the silver screen as potential, but supposedly fictional, extinction-level events. The powers that shouldn't be are expecting an event. Additionally, it's clear that they want to be the primary survivors. They do not want the rest of humanity to take action and survive. However, there seems to be a spiritual law in place whereby the elite, who actually work for Satan, must get the buy-in of the masses before they can move forward with any plans they may have. They need our agreement, a tacit agreement that we're okay with whatever they're doing to us, whether we really understand what we've agreed to or not. They must tell us what they're doing and what they know, but they do so surreptitiously, divulging their secrets through the guise of entertainment. While informing us of coming disasters, they simultaneously loudly discredit the veracity of their own message. It's only entertainment, after all, nothing to worry about. Once the event has taken place and millions of people have died, the rulers of this world will proceed to take over the earth, and whatever is left will be claimed as their own. So I just want you to know that Christians have secrets too. Okay? The elites aren't the only people who have secrets. The book of Revelation is also known as the Apocalypse. The word apocalypse simply means an unveiling or a revealing of knowledge that has previously been kept secret. God has chosen to reveal his mysteries, his secret knowledge, to his servants. Revelation 10:7. But that in the days of the trumpet call to be sounded by the seventh angel, the mystery of God would be fulfilled, just as he announced to his servants the prophets. And that, of course, is alluding back to Amos 3:7. Surely the Lord God does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets. And the book of Revelation is that revealing that God has done for us. The kings of the world are not the only kings who have secret knowledge. Christians are kings too, and that's why God has not left us in the dark concerning the events which will soon unfold. Through the scriptures and through his prophets, God has shared these secrets with us, giving us advance notice of what is about to take place. Why does God want us to know these things? He wants us to know because he loves us, and he desires to share his thoughts and his heart with his people. He wants us to understand how he plans to defeat his enemies. And more than that, he wants us to engage in the process with him. The world will change suddenly and catastrophically just before the return of Christ, and the change will appear to originate from the sky. Revelation 12:3-4. And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his head 7 diadems. And his tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And Luke 21:25-26. And there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth distress of nations in perplexity, because of the roaring of the sea and the waves, people fainting with fear and foreboding of what is coming on the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. To the uninitiated, cataclysms seem to arrive out of nowhere. But Noah knew decades in advance of the approaching disaster. As a result, he was not caught off guard or unprepared when the rains began. His family was kept safe in the ark while everyone else, including the fallen sons of God who married human women, the giants, and the disobedient, were taken by surprise. Even though Noah had been warning the world for years concerning what was coming, no one believed him or took him seriously. And it's possible that even Satan didn't believe Noah's message that God was about to send a flood to destroy the world that he had created, the world which Satan was in the process of making his own. But God did send a flood, and it wiped out every living thing that had breath, hybrid giants, humans, and animals alike. And as a result of this temporary setback in Satan's plan for world domination through the insertion of tares among the wheat, he may have determined in his heart that neither he, nor his minions, nor the kings of the earth through whom he controlled the world, would ever be caught off guard again. If the source of destruction came from the heavens, then he would make sure that there would always be individuals whose sole purpose was to monitor the skies and observe the heavens, so that Satan's minions would be ready whenever the next catastrophe might occur. Originally, God created the sun, moon, and stars as signs, his signs. Humanity was to observe the movement of the sun and stars through the cosmos, not only as a means of keeping track of time, but also to be informed of upcoming prophetic events, which would be heralded by specific signs God would place in the heavens. Of course, Satan didn't want people to know anything about God's heavenly prophetic clock, and this may be one reason why Satan corrupted the proper use of the heavenly bodies, co-opting the observation and study of the portents in the stars for his own use. Astronomy was corrupted as astrology, fortune-telling, and soothsaying, which was explicitly forbidden by God. Satan even made sure that Christians were taught to ignore the divine signs in the heavens. He would retain this knowledge for himself and his minions. God's intention, however, was that his people would be informed and have intimate knowledge concerning the details of his plan, including the timing of the fulfillment of prophetic events. Through the information revealed in the scriptures, God has chosen to enlighten believers with regard to the worldwide cataclysm that will coincide with his Son's return to earth. Those believers who are alive during the time of the transition between the ages have a particular need to know what to expect so that their hearts can be at peace and they can warn others. Revelation is the one New Testament book dedicated solely to the unveiling of the mystery of God. In this last book of the Bible, God described two specific warning signs which would take place in the starry heavens just prior to the time of transition from this age to the kingdom age. Once his people saw these signs, they would know that the catastrophe was about to begin. They would also know that their departure from this world was imminent. So what are the two signs? They are the great sign of Revelation 12, 1 and 2, often referred to as the sign of the woman, and the subsequent sign of the dragon in Revelation 12, 3 through 6. The great sign took place in 2017, and the arrival of the second sign is imminent. In spite of the fact that the book of Revelation is an unsealed book, most Christians are unaware that there even are signs of the end. A common teaching is that the rapture of believers and the coming trials associated with the end of the age are actually signless. The clear message of Revelation is that there will be specific signs in the heavens. These signs will signal to believers that their time of departure is near. They will also be made aware of the coming catastrophe and the end of the age for the purpose of warning others. There are a number of other reasons why Christians seem oblivious to what's coming. First, there is a general ignorance concerning the origin and science of past catastrophes. And a lot of pastors seem resistant to preaching on anything having to do with the end times. With very few exceptions, pastors who do read and teach the book of Revelation minimize the importance of the signs described in Revelation 12, relegating them to the past. The signs are either misinterpreted or simply skimmed over as lacking any real significance for believers. As a result, most Christians have no idea where they are with respect to God's end-time plan. And without a solid anchor to cling to, many believers find themselves adrift in a sea of end-time speculation. And sadly, even those of us who are watching for Christ's return, who believe that Jesus will come in our lifetime, still don't understand that his coming will coincide with the equivalent of a near ELE, or an extinction level event, and that the destruction will come from the heavens. So let me give you the scenario of how I see this beginning. The catastrophe will begin with a relatively small meteor strike, that is small in comparison to the ones that will follow. The meteor strike will primarily affect the nation of Israel and will be used by God to bring the Ezekiel 38 war, which I think Revelation 12 refers to as the travail of the woman, that war will be brought to an end. Other countries besides Israel will be affected as well, but the immediate focus will be on the land of Israel. This cosmic event will not happen in isolation. At the time the stars are literally falling, fallen angels, also referred to symbolically as stars, will be cast to the earth. And this is part of the second sign of Revelation 12, the sign of the dragon. But there's good news too. In the middle of all of this taking place, Christ himself will descend to earth, and faithful believers will be changed. In the twinkling of an eye, they will be transformed from their mortal bodies into immortal celestial bodies. And here's the passage in Revelation 10, 1 and 2 that talks about Jesus descending to the earth. Then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven, wrapped in a cloud, with a rainbow over his head, and his face was like the sun, and his legs like pillars of fire. And he had a little scroll open in his hand, and he set his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. And he called out with a loud voice, like a lion roaring. And when he called out, the 7 thunders sounded. So after Christ descends to the earth, the 7 thunders, who represent the voice of God, will sound as well. The 7 thunders are alluded to in the following Old Testament passage, where the voice of God, which sounds like thunder, is mentioned 7 times. So this is Psalm 29, 3 through 9. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord is heard over many waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is majestic. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. The Lord shatters the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon to skip like a calf. And that, by the way, is an earthquake, a fancy poetic way of talking about the earth shaking. And Sirion, or Mount Hermon, like a young wild ox. The voice of the Lord strikes with flames of fire. The voice of the Lord shakes the wilderness. The Lord shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord twists the oaks and strips the forests bare. And in his temple all cry, glory. The Lord's voice breaks trees and causes the earth to shake. This is also how God's glory will defeat Israel's enemies during the Gog-Magog invasion. And this is found in Ezekiel 38, 19 and verse 22. For in my jealousy and in my blazing wrath I declare, on that day there will be a giant earthquake in the land of Israel. With pestilence and bloodshed, I will enter into judgment with him, and I will rain upon him and his hordes, talking about Gog and his alliance there, and the many peoples who are with him, torrential rains and hailstones and fire and sulfur. Jesus, symbolized by the mighty angel in Revelation 10, will descend to the earth. He will take possession of believers, both living and dead. He will roar like a lion and transform his people into their celestial bodies. This will take place in the midst of a serious meteor storm, one which will cause major earthquakes, and all of this will be taking place during a time of war. Then, as if adding gasoline to the already raging fire, Satan will cast a third of his fallen angels to the earth as well. Okay, and this is the context in which the male child is going to be born, that is, changed, and then caught up to God and to his throne. Shortly after the transformation of believers, there will be a pause in the meteor shower. This break will allow transformed Christians to assist Christ in the sealing of the 144,000 of Israel, the people who will then take our place as the new sons of God on earth. They will take the baton from us, receive their commission, and finish the race begun by the apostles at Pentecost. Revelation 7, 2 and 3. Then I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun with the seal of the living God. Okay, and that's basically the signet ring. Okay, that's all of God's authority is in this angel. And he called with a loud voice to the 4 angels who had been given power to harm the earth and the sea, saying, "Do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we've sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads." It's significant that Christ, here described as the angel from the rising sun, commands the 4 trumpet angels not to commence blowing their trumpets, and thus adding more destruction to what is already taking place. They are to wait until the new sons of God, the 144,000 of Israel, have been sealed in the Holy Spirit. Their sealing in the Spirit will offer them protection against the fallen angels who will soon be released from the pit at the 5th trumpet. If the first 4 trumpet angels were not restrained, then the event associated with the 5th trumpet, the opening of the pit, would take place immediately as well, with disastrous results for anyone who is not sealed. Once the 144,000 are sealed and once newly changed believers are brought into heaven, then the trumpet angels will be given permission to proceed. Okay, and we've already read what happens once they blow their trumpets. And it's not like there is going to be a span of time between the first trumpet and the second trumpet and the third trumpet and the fourth trumpet. The first 5 trumpets are going to be blown almost simultaneously. Okay, and then we know that there's a space of 5 months between the 5th and the 6th trumpet. And then we know that the 6th trumpet only lasts 1 hour. Okay, and we also know that the 7th trumpet is going to take place at the very end, after Christ has returned. Okay, so now I want to talk about an unexpected and unpredictable cosmic event that the elite do not know anything about. Okay, not unless they read their Bible anyway. The cosmic events that will take place as the result of the blowing of the first 4 trumpets may actually be part of a larger cyclical cosmic event that occurs every few thousand years. Though the average person may be unaware of what's happening during these cosmic cycles, those who are in the know will have had adequate warning of the impending disaster, and they will not be taken by surprise. If my interpretation of the events recorded in Revelation are correct, the first meteor impacts would take place in late October, early November, in conjunction with the torrid meteor shower and a war in Israel. According to what's written in Revelation 12, Satan will at that time cast a third of his angels to the earth. Without going into the details of the Gog-Magog Ezekiel 38 invasion of Israel, I believe these meteor impacts will be used by God to bring the invasion to an end, as well as to destroy Magog and the coastlands. At the same time all of these things are transpiring, believers, represented as the male child of Revelation 12, will be born. They will be transformed into their immortal celestial bodies and remain on earth for 7 days. On the 8th day, these believers will be brought into heaven, and once in heaven, they are now symbolized by the 24 elders, kings and priests. And they will proceed to offer incense and prayers for those on earth. We read that in Revelation 5. And then their prayers and bowls of incense will be received by the angel at the altar. That's Revelation 8, starting with verse 2, whose subsequent actions then initiate a violent earthquake on the earth. The earthquake will be followed by the sounding of the first 4 trumpets, with the 5th trumpet events described in Revelation 9 following quickly. Spiritual events as well as earth-destroying cosmic events will take place within a matter of days. Okay, and I believe this may be what the elites are preparing for. Okay, they know something is coming. The prophesied cosmic events recorded in the Bible will result in a semi-global catastrophe. These events seem to be knowable by non-Christians, as evidenced by the number of underground cities that have been constructed by people who clearly do not follow Christ. Advanced knowledge of these events may have provided the impetus for the creation of underground facilities by the elite. They know something catastrophic will happen, and soon. The storm will only last days, not weeks or years. And once the earth has passed through the torrid meteor shower and has come out on the other side, the resource wars will begin. That is, peace will be taken from the earth, as various world leaders strive for global dominance and control over scarce resources. This situation will not bode well for new Christians, who will be martyred by the millions. Less than 6 months from when the first meteor struck the earth, a third of the remaining population of the earth will be annihilated, and that's at the sixth trumpet, in a single hour on one day, most likely as the result of a nuclear exchange. It's at this precise moment in history that the individual described in Revelation 13 as the beast from the sea, and we think about him or know of him as the Antichrist, will begin his 42-month reign. He, along with the false prophet and the dragon, Satan, will use their power and authority to rebuild the world as it suits them. As a result of the cosmic impacts and the massive nuclear war which took place at the sixth trumpet, second woe, many parts of the earth will be a veritable wasteland. The sky will be filled with volcanic and nuclear ash, giving rise to a nuclear winter. There will be very little food, clean water, or supplies available for the average person who survived this nightmare. But Satan has cleverly and diabolically arranged a solution to this problem. Anyone who wants to eat or have any semblance of a life at all will need to pledge their allegiance to the new king, the beast, the Antichrist. Those who refuse to do so will be denied sustenance and may even be beheaded. Ultimately, anyone who chooses to give their allegiance to the beast will end up in the lake of fire, having exchanged their immortal soul for physical security. This is when the new nefarious powers that shouldn't be, the beast, the false prophet, and so on, will deceive themselves into believing that God has permanently abandoned the earth. And in their pride, they will move forward with their plans, confident that life will continue with no further interference from the Lord. And this is the peace and safety that the Bible talks about. When they say peace and safety, sudden destruction will happen. The predicted catastrophe for which they had prepared so diligently is now in the past. And they survived it. Life will go on, and for all intents and purposes, the control of the earth now belongs to them. So the beast and the kings will open the storehouses of food. The supplies which were squirreled away in their underground facilities will be made available for a price. Like Joseph of old, who stored up grain during the years of plenty to be sold during the years of famine, these kings will have their own storehouses, all of them under the centralized control of the beast. He will dole out food to the survivors for a price, on the condition that they worship him and his minions and take his mark. They will proceed to rebuild the world after their own imaginations, as they claim as their own the world that God made for himself. So let's talk about no one knows the day or the hour. If this were the end of the story, all hope would be lost. But this is not the end of the story, and evil will not prevail. On an unknown day, the Lord will breach the atmosphere and shatter their sense of security. The wicked will be destroyed by what even they could not control and did not anticipate, the return of the Lord in power. Ironically, the coming of the Lord will be preceded by unpredictable supernatural signs in the heavens, and one sign in particular. In essence, the rulers of the world will not see this one coming. Revelation 6, 12 through 17. When he opened the sixth seal, I looked, and behold, there was a great earthquake. And the sun became black as sackcloth, and the full moon became like blood. And the stars of the sky fell to the earth as the fig tree sheds its winter fruit when shaken by a gale. And the sky vanished like a scroll that's being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. And then the kings of the earth, and the great ones, and the generals, and the rich, and the powerful, and everyone, slave and free, hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the mountains and rocks, "Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand?" The cosmic events of the sixth seal will be of supernatural origin, totally unprecedented, and thus not predictable by men. More than just witnessing the stars falling to the earth, those living at that time will have a view into the throne room of God as the sky is rolled back. And what they see will utterly terrify them. And overcome with fear, they will retreat to their underground bunkers and cities in an attempt to save themselves from the wrath to come. The unveiling of God's throne room in heaven will be swiftly followed by the events connected with the seven bowls, which constitute the wrath of God. I'm going to read from Revelation chapter 16, verses 2 through 4 and 8 through 14. So the first angel went and poured out his bowl on the earth, and harmful, painful sores came upon the people who bore the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. The second angel poured out his bowl into the sea, and it became like the blood of a corpse, and every living thing died that was in the sea. And the third angel poured out his bowl into the rivers and springs of water, and they became like blood. And the fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and it was allowed to scorch people with fire. And they were scorched by the fierce heat, and they cursed the name of God, who had power over these plagues. They did not repent and give him glory. The fifth angel poured out his bowl on the throne of the beast, and its kingdom was plunged into darkness. People gnawed their tongues in anguish and cursed God, the God of heaven, for their pain and sores. They did not repent of their deeds. And the sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and the water was dried up, to prepare the way for the kings from the east. And I saw, coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs. For they are demonic spirits performing signs, who go abroad to the kings of the whole world to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty. Similar to the predicted and previously anticipated cosmic events which took place in conjunction with the invasion of Israel and the subsequent meteor impacts a week later, the 7 bowls of wrath will bring more of the same kind of destruction and worse. Sores will break out on the beast worshippers. The sea and fresh water will be turned to blood, like that of a corpse, and every living thing in the seas and lakes will die. The sun will vanish, leaving the beast's kingdom in total blackness. Then the Euphrates River will dry up. And finally, 3 unclean spirits will lure the kings of the earth out from within the perceived safety of their underground hiding places. These spirits will perform miraculous signs powerful enough to convince the kings of the earth that they may actually have what it takes to make a stand against the Lord and prevail. They will assemble their armies in Israel at a place called Armageddon. Armageddon, the name of a battle that will be over even before it's begun. So we're talking about extinction level events here, and they are known Okay, at least some of them are known by the powers that be, and they're getting ready for whatever is going to happen. And once we've passed through whatever this event is, then there is going to be this battle for resources, and that's what seals 1 through 4 are all about. They're about this battle for food and resources and whatever is left here on earth. Okay, and then the 5th seal is all about the martyrdom of believers, and all this will take place even before the beast begins to reign. And the beast will begin to reign at the 6th trumpet, at that hour, day, month, and year when 1/3 of mankind is destroyed. And this, I believe, will be primarily through a nuclear exchange, but that's going to be assisted by 4 angels who are released from the river Euphrates, who have in their command a 200 million, whatever it is, entity army that they will then enlist to kill 1/3 of mankind. All right, so what we're headed into is actually an extinction level event that the powers that be know is going to happen, and a nuclear exchange, which they also are preparing for. So I hope you will get a copy of my book, Convergence. It's available on Amazon, both Kindle and paperback. It's not very big, but I do talk about all of these things, and I will, Lord willing, also include as a chapter what I've just read to you. This will also be available in the show notes as a PDF, so you can get a copy of it. And if you've already ordered my book, you can just copy this off, fold it up, and stick it inside of your book, and you will have that chapter available for you. And I'm actually inserting it as chapter 8 in the book. So it'll be the new chapter 8. All right, so leave a comment in the comment section. I hope you'll share this video, and we'll see you on another video. Till then, have a blessed day.